That not my name.
Goodbye, everybody, and welcome to the end of the Bizarro Style Show. I am not Bizarro. I wanted to start the show off by thanking my patrons. I had some new folks who donated to the show, and I really appreciate it. They're my first patrons since I set up the page. So I first want to thank Dark Wanderer, and then I want to thank Halara from the Knights of Rao. I really appreciate you donating to the show. It will go to a good cause because it helps me to either get characters to review or towards equipment that I can use to record. If you'd like to become a Patreon, just go to patreon.com/Bizarro Style, and Bizarro is 1Z, 2 R's. Some people always flip that, which I guess would technically be backwards, but don't do it in that instance. The other thing is I'm going to be establishing tiers soon for the Patreon page, which will provide different rewards depending upon which level you buy in at. So just be patient with me as I come up with good ideas, because sometimes the wheels turn slow. And speaking of ideas, if you have a show idea, don't be afraid to tell me your show idea because I'm always looking for new topics to cover. So speaking of topics, we're going to cover a new topic tonight, and I have a guest with me. And if you are looking for my traditional content of DC Legends, this particular show may not be for you, because this new thing that we'll be doing on a recurrent basis is called Tales from Bizarro World, where I'll be joined by a guest who I'll just introduce in just a second. And we're going to essentially be telling stories, and I'll talk about the genesis of why we're doing this. But we are going to transition you somewhat easily into this by starting off with a DC related topic and story that we both thought was pretty funny. So with all of that said, let me introduce my guest, who is Vorhees from JLI.
How's it going?
Hey man, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. So
no problem.
You and I have been telling each other stories for, I don't know, how many months has it been now?
3 or 4 now.
And the stories were so amusing, I had said to you, we need to do this on the show. Because you had me in tears some nights, and I think I had you in tears some nights telling stories. And I thought this would make...
I think it was...
Go
ahead. I think it was pretty mutual. It was pretty mutual.
Yeah, I mean, you were cracking me up, man. So this could be the biggest bomb in history, and we may only think each other's stories are funny, and our audience may say, what the heck is this crap? But who knows? It might work like a charm. So I was saying that we wanted to transition the audience into this new idea of storytelling and funny stories. And we had this story that was DC related that we wanted to start with, which I called the Great Detective Chimp story. And so, so thanks for joining me for doing this. And do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
Oh, you go right ahead. It's your show.
Okay. So the way this started was Vorhees and I have been friends for a while, as I mentioned, and we were on a server together, and I had been talking about a character named Detective Chimp, which you thought was a total joke.
Absurdity. Total absurdity.
Because the idea that there was in DC Comics somehow a chimp wearing... like a Sherlock Holmes hat and the pipe and everything was just absolute absurdity to you. And yet you thought it was a joke, and I finally had to show you, like, this is real. This is a real character in DC.
Yeah, you should. You definitely had to prove it to me because I was not believing it.
So I'm trying to remember how it went from there. So I think we started doing research on Detective Chimp, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And
you showed me the first initial picture, and then I was like, there's just no way. And then you're like, no, seriously, dude. And you started pulling like pages out of comic books and stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is real.
Yeah, I can't believe Detective Chimp is a real character, but and it turns out he's actually apparently a big part of the Justice League Dark storyline that is in the comics right now, which I did not know.
Yes, I believe he showed me a page of it, and they kind of had him more done up in a more Sonny Crockett from Miami Vice style type outfit rather than the traditional Sherlock Holmes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle style with the pipe and the hat and all that.
So we were finding out right away that there were multiple versions of Detective Chimp. And I like the way you described it too as the Miami Vice look, because that is what he looked like.
Right. Yeah, because he had the T-shirt with the coat on, the overcoat, and
Yeah, he had like the white coat.
And I think he was smoking like a cigarette rather than a pipe too.
That's right. Because he was like sitting in a bar, and I'm trying to remember the name of the bar because there's a famous bar for all the magic characters in DC, and I can't think of what it's called, but I think that's where he was sitting.
I gotcha. Like he interacts with like Batman and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's like a serious character. Yeah. Okay. Right. That still blows my mind, but okay.
So then we find out that the Bureau of Amplified Animals is a thing.
Yeah. The Bureau, of course.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I cannot believe that this is a real thing. I cannot believe that the Bureau of I can't even speak.
Amplified Animals, yeah.
It's like my brain can't handle the fact that this is a real thing. So when we thought about that, I started pitching you other characters to join Detective Chimp in his adventures, because we were ready to come up with a whole show for Detective Chimp.
Well, yeah, because you can't have like Detective, like Watson with him. I mean, that would be too cliche. So he's got to have, a group that he can depend on to go and do his detectiving, right?
Yeah.
It only makes sense.
Yeah, and the only thing that made sense to me was having a porpoise to work with him.
Well, of course. What else?
And I think we went through some, we were trying to think of, what should the porpoise's name be? And I had sent you a picture of the porpoise the way I envisioned him. And do you want to describe what it looked like?
It's a very rough color drawing of a very simplistic porpoise head with a hat on, pretty much, like a cabbie hat. And I remember looking at that going, that's Paulie the porpoise, if I ever saw it.
And don't forget he had the vest on, too, and I think he had a cigarette in his mouth.
Right, he did have a cigarette. No, the first one you show was just his head, and then you actually pulled up another one that was his entire...
Oh, that's right.
And then you could see he had the vest on, and he was pretty much a porpoise. I mean, full-size porpoise with the hat, the cigarette, and the vest, yes.
And we had to come up with a backstory for Paulie. And my recollection of the backstory was that Paulie used to be human. And that something happened to him, and I think he has to help Detective Chimp. And only through helping Detective Chimp, as I'm saying this, sounds so ridiculous, but as he's helping Detective Chimp, that he can somehow earn the right to return to human form. Is that right?
Yes. That is exactly right. That's exactly right. But I also want to reiterate that the porpoise actually came up before you looked for any kind of images or anything like that. So we were already talking about the porpoise before, and then you magically produced images of this porpoise, which made it even funnier. It was like, are you kidding me? But it even gets even more absurd than that. Please continue.
It's amazing to me that you can type almost anything into Google and get a picture of it. And if you think the porpoise is crazy along those lines, wait till we get to the next character.
That's what I was alluding to.
So, in his former life, Paulie the porpoise was a cab driver. yet he continues to still drive this cab. And one of your biggest concerns was, how does a porpoise drive a cab?
That's right. I mean, that's an important thing. I mean, you know, if you're going to drive a cab and you're a porpoise, the keys are not, your foot pedals are not really aligned for a fin. And plus, you know, he's got that back fin sticking out too. So
how's he going to really sit comfortably in the seat?
Exactly. I mean, what, are you going to fold that thing over, or, you know, these are things that you think about when you're trying to develop a character. You know, you got to think about all the logistics of the character and driving a vehicle, and the fact that his accent is derivative of Columbo from the 70s and 80s TV show. That's what we also determined, you know. Just one more thing, ma'am.
Yeah. You want a fresh one? So it's like a combination of Columbo and like an Italian gangster.
Like James Cagney almost.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah. Like James Cagney from back in the golden days of movies, you know. We're going to get away from you, coppers! You know, that kind of thing, you know.
You'll never take us alive.
She!
Yeah. Oh, and that was the key, is he ends everything he says with she.
Yep, that's right. Everything. No, she. You know, the everything. Yes, she.
So.
You want to smoke, she? Yeah.
Well, see, and the way I envision the cab is there's got to be a cutout in the seat for the fin, because otherwise
the fin to slide through. Yeah.
Yeah, just like it's kind of like putting in a tape in the tape deck. You know, he just slides that right in there, and then he's off and ready to buckle up.
Yeah, it's kind of like he can't really go through the door. We also have to talk about the cab itself. The cab itself is not a normal cab.
No.
The cab is a magic cab.
This is a magic cab. I mean, because otherwise, we got to keep some credibility and realism to this story. I mean, I know it involves a magical chimp and a magical porpoise, but we don't want it to be like where it's not believable. So the only way that the cab can accommodate the porpoise is if the cab is magical.
Magical properties, yes. That's right.
So Detective Chimp sits in the back of the cab like a regular customer all the time. And Polly drives him around.
And don't forget, this cab is also handicap accessible.
That's correct.
Which will lead us into the most... What was funny was that you were talking about, you know, believability and putting credibility into this characters, and now we're going to go into this next character, which is the most absurd of all.
Yeah, this rounds out the trinity of our character set for this particular story. Do you want to? I think you should take this one to start.
Okay. All right, so. We've already established Detective Chimp, and we get into Polly the Porpoise, and we're thinking, okay, so we have to have some kind of character that is kind of the brains of the outfit, you know, the one that, you know, like Oracle, right, the guy in the wheelchair. So don't ask me how this came up, but we started talking about a carrot, and... a live sentient carrot that has no ability to speak. It has to use a voice box, kind of like the who did you say?
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking, exactly. The voice box, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, that kind of thing. You do it way better than I do. Yeah. Please do it. It was hysterical.
I'm Joey the carrot.
Perfect.
And just to be clear, we're in no way making fun of any group or disability or anything like that. We wanted to have a character that was a unique addition to the show, and that sort of captured that Oracle thing. And I kept thinking, how would a carrot talk? And there's no way a carrot could talk, so he's got to have other means by which to do it. And I thought, this makes sense.
And telepathy is just too cliche. You know, you've already got the magic cab. You can't throw too much of that magic and unbelievability in there. I mean, you know, but the carrot was originally created through a nuclear radioactive miracle grow, is what we had determined.
Which makes sense.
Bad boss. Yeah, it totally makes sense. It just adds that touch of believability.
I think there's actually a class action lawsuit against Miracle Grow for this particular thing. So who knows if there are other sentient vegetables out there.
But let's get to the really, really funny part was when we brought up the carrot and we're talking about it and we're laughing and giggling and, cutting up about it. While we're doing this, you get on the Google again and type it out, and within 30 seconds, you've got a picture that somebody has drawn of a carrot actually in a wheelchair.
That's right.
That I lost it because that was unbelievable.
It was
everything that we had talked about.
I realized you can find a picture of anything on Google. Anything. All I typed in was carrot in a wheelchair, and bang, there it was. And I think I sent you one iteration of it, and then I actually found a better one that was like more well drawn and looked a little bit more skilled. The thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing that killed me was there wasn't just one picture on the internet. There were many pictures on the internet, and we got to choose.
Yeah, so if you ever need any kind of vegetable in a wheelchair, there are many to choose from on Google. So yeah,
this is what happens when you play DCL nonstop all the time. Is that your mind just turns to mush?
That's right. So
which is kind of the whole reason for this show, to be honest with you, is because we're just trying to add some comedy, some fun.
That's right. You need a break from DC Legends sometimes. It can't all be serious, right?
Nope. And I believe we're going to segue a little bit more into that too.
That's right.
How we've kind of taken this a little bit to the next level.
Yeah, I think this would be if there was we talk about taking a joke too far. This would be taking it farther than far.
Definitely.
Realm. I don't even know what it would be. So I sent you an advertisement that I had created from the pictures of Detective Chimp, Polly the Porpoise, and Joey the Carrot, suggesting that the new show would debut on Netflix in the spring of this year. So
yeah.
So we decide that we think we should pitch the show to Netflix, but we really need to, practice our pitch first because we didn't want to go in cold to Netflix.
Right, correct. Yeah, we can't go in cold. I mean, this is a huge deal. We got to make sure that we're hitting the right demographic.
Yeah. We got to know who our target audience is. We got to know what they want out of these characters.
Right.
What do they expect out of a carrot in a wheelchair? That's
right.
So we decided to the same server that you and I met on. We decided to pitch this a little hard on the server, let's say, and
yeah,
and we do get an audience for this to pitch this.
We had a few people. It was late at night too. Remember that? It was like 11, 12, something like that. It was pretty late when all this happened. So it wasn't like, we had like the whole server involved or anything like that. This is just a couple guys that were kind of hanging out at night, and we happened to catch them at just the right moment. It was just a perfect storm is what it was.
And if somebody starts talking about a chimp, a porpoise, and a carrot, it's kind of hard to ignore that, right? You can't just sort of gloss over, hey, I got two guys in the room talking about these three things, but I'm just going to head to bed.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're going to be interested. I mean, you've got to hear what's going to happen because we initially pitched as this is our new Netflix pitch that we're going to be presenting to Netflix. So what is your opinion on this?
Yeah.
And these individuals were more than accommodating on our pitch to the point where we were crying. We were laughing so hard.
Yeah, I was crying for sure. I could not breathe.
I was too. I was choking and coughing and all that stuff. It was hysterical.
And one of the comments that I remember that cracked me up so much is when somebody said, "You guys are selling this really hard."
I remember that. That was so awesome.
So we have this whole question and answer session that starts, right, where they're asking us about the characters, which was good because that's how we develop their backstories more, right?
It is. Yes, that's right. That's correct. This was all on the fly stuff, and we were acting like this was a serious thing. I mean, there was no joking around, or we were presenting it in a very professional manner, like we would to Netflix.
Right.
I mean,
and the nice thing is, you know, if you're going to have a character like a carrot in a wheelchair or a former human that's now a porpoise, you don't want to have any holes in their backstory. I mean, that's just asking for disaster.
No, you definitely have to have that solid. And we really do thank those individuals for helping us flesh those backstories out, because it really made my night. And even after the next night, when we were kind of recapping everything that happened the night before, we were still crying about it. I mean, it was
I swear,
unbelievable.
I have not laughed that hard, and I can't remember the last time I laughed that hard, because I went to sleep in pain because my side hurt, my lungs hurt, my throat hurt just from laughing so uncontrollably. And I remember, so we're going to get into a thing in a second where we're going to talk about incorporating Polly the Porpoise into DC Legends as a new character for the show, or for the game.
Yeah.
And there was something that we talked about there where I could not look at my screen anymore, because if I had looked at my screen where you were typing, I was going to lose it. I was going to laugh uncontrollably, so I couldn't look at the screen anymore.
Yes, I understand. It was, and if we're not relaying this well, I'm sorry. That's kind of how we were talking about at the beginning. This might not be funny to everyone else, but it sure was funny to us.
Yeah, if you don't find it funny, I'm totally sorry. But we sure got a kick out of this.
We sure did, especially when we get into this next segment, which which is when it starts getting really, really, really good.
So when we're taking a joke way too far, I started talking about how they should introduce Polly the Porpoise as a new character in DC Legends, and we just started discussing what Polly's moves would be, what his moveset would be, and I suggested that he should have a move involving his cab, where he gets in the cab, cranks it up, and then just runs everybody over on the other team, sort of like Lobo does with his motorcycle. And
20 bleeds.
20 bleeds per character. It's a 25 turn cooldown. And and I also said that right when right when he gets to the end, after he's run over the last character, he stops the cab, taps out his cigarette, and says, "She?"
She?
So that was the move, and the vision of that in my head that I could picture so well killed me. I mean, it absolutely killed me.
Yeah, me too. And then, of course, we talked about what the Carrot's move might be, and pretty much it's just the other team just gets a whole bunch of intelligence downs, because how would you feel if you're talking to a carrot? It's just got to take you back.
You said there would be so many intelligence downs that it would basically be like you revert to your childhood.
Right.
So, but that's his only move. No other
what the hell am I looking at?
Yeah.
So he only has one move. I mean, that's it. Just one move. It's a zero move, a zero turn move, and it's just a whole bunch of intelligence downs, and then he just kind of just sits in the wheelchair, and that's it. The rest of there is no more turns. So that's all he does.
So the downside of that is that's his only move. The upside is that it's very easy to upgrade this character, because you don't have to have a lot of blue rings for him.
And it's a devastating move. It is an absolutely devastating move.
I mean, how could it not be?
Right. I mean, 40 intelligence downs per character. I mean.
So this became an ongoing joke that I would poke at you with every once in a while to see if I could get you laughing again. And and then something else came up where Detective Chimp would sort of play this primary role in everything. And so let me give the audience a little bit of a backstory.
Yeah, please do.
My audience. See, this is where my brain is melting from talking about a carrot in a wheelchair.
Yeah, intelligence downs.
Exactly. I think I think I have 20 on me right now.
Right.
So my alliance had decided that we wanted to do a coordinated push for a character, I believe in November. And we were going for Bizarro, and if you're not familiar with Bizarro is a real character in DC that was introduced in Superman, Batman comics. And in his origin has never really been explained, but he's referred to as the world's worst detective. And what he does is he actually goes around killing people and then solving their murders. So he joins with Bizarro, and I thought it was such a cool character. I wanted to get my alliance to push for this character, and in fact, we have a member named Bizarro. So we organized this push, and then I decided to get other alliances involved in this push because I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. I want to get everybody involved and as many votes as possible. And it was just supposed to be a 1 month thing, one and done. See if we can get some traction for this character. So I think I contact you about getting your alliance involved too?
Not with Bizarro, no.
Okay,
that was before.
Might have been only my alliance. I might have asked one other alliance to do it. So anyway,
Well, you were actually serious about this. I mean, this wasn't a joke of any kind or anything like that.
No, we really wanted
totally legit.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because that's exactly right. We wanted the character. So the votes are tabulated the next month as they usually are, and I noticed that Bizarro wasn't in the votes, and so I was disappointed in it, and I thought, what's a way I could get some sort of fun revenge for this, and it wasn't supposed to be malicious or anything like that. I just wanted to kind of clown around.
And this was from the community.
Go ahead.
This was on the community center. This was on the community center, by the way. If you don't know, that's what we're talking about. There's a vote that's taken every month on the community center that's led by the moderator Joker, and every month everyone kind of puts in all their votes and all of that, just so that the audience knows, because some people may not know. I know that some people don't really go to the CC very much, so just to kind of give the audience a little bit of a backstory and to where all this happened.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because that's right, and like I actually like that he does the survey because the survey results do go to the developers, and they often play a role. Like if they see somebody being asked for over and over and over again, they'll often get that character into the game. So it's something I appreciate he does, but I just thought I'd have some fun and sort of mess with the poll 1 month for as my sort of joking way of getting revenge for not counting Bizarro votes. So I decided to do a push for none other than Detective Chimp.
Detective Chimp.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Why not? He's a DC character. Yeah.
So I contacted every alliance that I knew, and I know a lot of alliances because I used to head up a server where all the leaders of the server were in there. So I contacted everybody I knew, and I said, get your alliance to vote for Detective Chimp. And this was where I did contact you, right, about this one?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And what was the reaction in JLI? Were they stoked for Detective Chimp?
They don't know a lot of the backstory. Actually, they probably don't know anything, to be honest with you.
Well, they
I
will
kept
now.
it kind of quiet. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I told everybody I was going to be on your show on Thursday. Like, yeah, make sure you post a link. We got to hear this. But at any rate, I just kind of got on there, and they all respect me, and they kind of just do what I tell them to do, or do. I don't really tell them to do anything. I ask them, hey, listen, there's a vote on the CC. You guys, some of you are aware, some of you may not be aware, but I would really appreciate it if you supported me and went and put a vote in for Detective Chimp. Right. And I had several members that did exactly that. So that's kind of how I got involved with it, and watched the destruction unfold afterwards.
So this is where things go south. Is what I intended to be a joke sort of went out of control, because I guess one friend told two friends, and those two friends told two friends, and those two friends told two friends, and before I know it, there are way too many votes for Detective Chimp in the poll.
Really, and if you think about this, it really is a testament to how the community will react when somebody request something. Somebody of respect requests somebody within the community. You ask somebody to do it. I mean, they jump. They jump. These guys do. They really do. And it was kind of cool to see that, to be honest with you. Just this overwhelming push for this ridiculous character, which even made it even more funny to me, to be honest with you, because it was just unbelievable, the turn of people that actually showed up, because I didn't really think anybody would do it. It was like, yeah, go on there and vote for Detective Chimp. Why would I want a monkey in the game? Like, come on, you got Grad.
It's a chimp in a Sherlock hat and a pipe. What do you not get?
What's not the like? What's not the like? I mean, come on.
So
and we're not saying he's the world's greatest detective or anything.
But if they did a Detective Month, let's say, with World's Greatest Detective and Detective Chimp, and it could be all.
Yeah, and if you get enough detectives in the game, then you could have like a one of those blitzes, Detective Blitz or something.
Exactly. So it goes a little out of control, which I did not intend, and where it really starts going south is votes start getting deleted, and then people are legitimately upset. At least some people were legitimately upset because they felt like, well, these are our votes and they should count. So so there was it morphed into something that wasn't funny anymore, and I didn't intend for that to happen, but. So I guess I can't really say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, because this was more of a joke than an intention.
Yes.
So I don't know if the road to hell is paved with bad jokes or something.
Really bad jokes.
So eventually we're able to smooth it over, but for a while it looked like people were going to get booted from the community center, and it looked like people were going to get banned, and votes are getting deleted. And eventually I'm able to smooth it over and sort of get the voting to stop. And the final result is now there is a caveat on all these surveys that say you may not organize a campaign for a character, and I am the cause of that caveat.
Yeah. Yep, you are the cause. You're the bad guy.
So I'm sorry. I did not intend for it to go that out of control, if you're listening.
It really divided you and I. I stopped talking to you. No, I'm just kidding.
I almost drove to where you live for a fist fight. But it's like I just couldn't stay angry that long in the drive over there.
Well, I was going to come to you for a fist fight, but I couldn't find a cab that would do it. So
you should have taken the magic cab.
Right.
So that is the great Detective Chimp story, all the way from the genesis of the Trinity of Detective Chimp all the way through the voting on him as a character. Interestingly enough, just as a sidebar, people still continue to vote for him because there are people who really actually like the character. And I learned something. Like, aren't we supposed to say that at the end of every episode? And I learned something today.
Yeah, one to grow on, you know.
Yeah. I learned about Detective Chimp as a character and gained a greater appreciation for him. Did we forget anything?
I don't think so. I think we covered it all. I mean, that's pretty much the whole story. Of course, it's still, you know, the Detective Chimp and the giggling and laughing about that kind of segued into a lot of other things, but, you know, that's for another time, maybe.
I agree. So
we've been talking for months and goofing off, so there's a lot of material there.
And I'm still waiting on you to produce. You're going to produce an actual hand drawing of Detective Chimp, Polly the Porpoise, and Joey the Carrot together.
That's right. That's right. I plan. I kind of wished I would have had it ready for the show, but you know, I'm lazy. I guess.
You just
unmotivated.
That's all it is. You're very meticulous.
No, that's not it. I'm on DC
just
Legends all the time.
Yeah. So what we're going to do going forward is it's going to be the same sort of format, except for we will be telling stories from our own lives that have we've amused each other, and I thought that they would be good for the listening audience. It'll give you a chance to get to know me better, get to know Vorhees better. So going forward, that's what you can expect. I want to thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate it, man.
Hey, it was no problem whatsoever. It was a pleasure to do it. And I would say I'd like to say hi
again
to somebody.
For a second there. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I would like to say hi to V. How you doing? Love you. And that's it, man.
So there's the first shout out on the show. You should feel quite honored. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe for more content that will be coming in the future. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy it, try to resist hitting that dislike button. Otherwise, I won't see you next time.